Guilds outlawed, the world becomes smaller. Centuries pass unmarred by the blight of war. Empires thrive in the balance, but conquest is enticing, and what was stolen will be reclaimed in blood.
It was a new morning in the kingdom of Ascalon. The sun was shining in a beautiful day in the season of the Scion. People were preparing for the season of Colossus, and children were playing outside in the falling orange leaves. Standing on the great northern wall was King Adalbern, watching the daily fighting between the Ascalonian army and the Charr that had been going on for several years now. Wanting to end the war once and for all, he was planning a new offensive against the beasts. So he sent out the order to gather every willing and able man or woman to fight for the security of their glorious kingdom. Little did they all know that with nightfall on this day, the course of history would be changed forever. Coming straight out of the academy, we meet the hero of the story. Eager to prove themselves and a good student, they followed King Adalbern's call and signed up for the fight against the Charr. The army's organizer, Sir Titus, informed the hero that they were accepted into the army but had yet to prove themselves in real combat. He asked them to help around the land with all manner of things. Titus advised to speak with the renowned adventurer Devona in Ashford, as she might have a task for them. Leaving Ascalon City, the hero encountered Gwen, a small girl playing in the grass and fallen brown leaves. They stopped shortly, helping Gwen recover her flute she had lost playing by the river. Sadly, the flute was broken by the nearby scales, but the hero promised to buy her a new one if they could find the time for it. On their way, our hero also encountered Prince Rurik, Adalbern's son, with the legendary flaming sword Sohothan in his hand. They stopped to chat with him for a while. Rurik seemed happy, and when asked about the war, optimistically brushed it aside to talk more about his fiancée, Lady Althea, and the wedding they were planning. Arriving in Ashford, Devona was already waiting with the first task. She heard rumblings that one of the Abbey scholar, Mirak the scribe, had made a discovery and asked the hero to inquire about it. In front of the Abbey's living quarters, the hero found Mirak deep in thought, mumbling to himself. When approached, he startled and revealed that he was sent a vision by Dwayna herself, with a message for the city's authorities, and asked the hero to hurry, as this information could mean the difference between victory or death. On their way back, the hero made sure to buy a new flute and cape for Gwen. They also picked some of Ascalon's characteristic red iris flowers to make her happy. Back in the city, the hero delivered the message to their mentor, Armin Sabelin, who seemed very concerned about the news and promptly hurried off to report to the prince. Before they could catch their breath, a town crier came running in search of the hero. He was tasked to deliver an urgent message of Devona, who had spotted a Grawl squad marching towards Ashford, and asked for the hero's aid. So they hurried back to fend off the Grawl. With Devona's help, the Grawl was swiftly defeated, but the two spotted something strange in the distance. A Charr. Devona could identify him as Vatlav Doomtooth, of relative high rank in the warbands that besieged the wall. They picked up the pursuit, but before they could reach him, the Charr ranger vanished into the woods. Concerned, Devona left to discuss the happenings with Rurik. Our hero spent the rest of the day helping around the land. From aiding to secure the safety of the Abbey's monks while performing a ritual in the catacombs, over fending off bandits that stole the city's taxes, to helping with the rescue mission of a scout stuck behind the wall, as well as spending some more time with Gwen, until they were approached by Rurik in the afternoon. The prince shared his concerns about the Charr that was spotted during the Grol's attack. He speculated that the Charr might have used the catacombs, which had exits all over the country, to operate undetected, and asked the hero to investigate. In the catacombs, the hero encountered Oberon the Reviled, a powerful necromancer that spent most of his days aside the dead. They inquired about the Charr, and Oberon confirmed that he noticed its presence in the underground maze. But the Charr wouldn't dare linger for long, since the indigenous spirits wouldn't take kindly to visitors. The necromancer handed over a tooth Vatlav had lost during his latest venture. Upon seeing this, Rurik pledged to send out a squad of his finest soldiers to find the Charr, but explained he had more pressing matters to attend to. A small squad of Charr soldiers had managed to breach the gate to the Northlands, and since every other soldier was occupied with the preparation of their new offensive, he and his personal guard would have to take care of it. The Prince of Ascalon invited the hero to join his forces and himself. This would be an excellent opportunity to assess their fighting capabilities. After taking care of the Charr incursion, they returned to the city at the break of dusk. Armin Saberlin informed the prince that his personal troop, the Ascalon Vanguard, had finished preparing for their mission to kill Vatlav Doomtooth. Rurik thanked his subordinate and explained to the hero that he was very impressed with them and would be honored if they chose to join the Vanguard. The hero agreed, and soon they headed out for their first mission.
For 3 nights the sky will rain fire. The cause will appear both known and unknown, heralding the beasts, if beasts they are, destruction and devastation in their wake.
As the Vanguard battled through a cave of Grol, they caught Vatlav with his back against a wall. But as he had drawn his final breath and the sun had set, he smiled. Suddenly, the sky turned red and something fell from above like snow. Ash. The Charr behind the wall had launched their ace weapon. Explosions rang throughout the valley as the clouds parted and gave way for massive crystals that rained from the heavens. They shattered the Great Wall, destroyed the city, and seared the lands, killing thousands in the process. The prince, the hero, and the rest of the Vanguard could just watch, shell-shocked by what they just witnessed.
From the west will come the heart of Kryta, 2 leaders from the same blood except their audience. But the words cannot hold events foretold. The temples are deserted, and faith is thin, and the danger is only growing.
Two years later, the hero returned from a scouting mission and reported to Captain Osric. The captain, in turn, informed them that an ambassador from Kryta had arrived to offer their help against the Charr. But Adalbern refused to grant him audience. He mentioned that Adalbern still harbored mistrust against Kryta, since they were fierce enemies of Ascalon in the Third Guild War the king had fought in. Rurik, who didn't witness this war, had a different opinion and judged the defense of Ascalon to be losing without outside help. The captain asked the hero to talk to War Master Titus, who was now a military advisor to the king. since Adalbern trusted him and Titus trusted the hero. In the remnants of what was once the proud city of Ascalon, Titus scolded the hero for attempting to sweet-talk him to get to Adalbern, and reminded them their loyalties should lie with the king and country. Seeming to blindly trust Adalbern's judgment, Titus asked the hero to deliver the formal rejection letter to the ambassador, who had set up his camp outside of the city with his delegation. Arriving at the camp, the hero stumbled into Prince Rurik, who had come personally to speak with Ambassador Zain, assuring him that he will speak with the king. After exchanging pleasantries with the prince and the ambassador, the hero delivered the royal message and made their way back into the city. En route, they caught a glimpse of King Adalbern, who had personally come to arrest Zain. In his way stood the prince, determined to preserve the possibility of hope and help for his country. For now, Rurik managed to dissuade his father's anger and assure the ambassador's safety. In the city again, the hero noticed a lot more army activity than usual and decided to investigate atop the Great Northern Wall. There, they found a squire who informed them that Captain Calhan had reasonable suspicion that the Charr were planning something big, and had asked for every capable hand to help with the defense. After finding Calhan, he explained his scouts had seen increased Charr movement, and he was trying to put a squad together to scout ahead. As member of the Ascalon Vanguard, the hero volunteered. Far into the Northlands, the hero indeed found the Charr's marching grounds, where Bonfaz Burntfur, the shaman responsible for the searing, had gathered a larger army than anything Ascalon had seen as of yet. Shaken by this revelation, the hero and a small group got spotted by the army, which took up pursuit. Barely, they managed to get behind the wall's safety again. Seeing the huge armada of Charr approaching, Calhan knew he didn't have the manpower to defend it. The captain ordered to retreat towards Fort Rannick, and with a heavy heart, gave up the control over this part of the wall. Prince Rurik, who got informed about the conquering of the wall, had started gathering the vanguard at Fort Rannick and was prepared to take it back from the Charr forces. He requested to go personally with the hero and a small team. During the mission briefing, Lord Darren urged the hero to keep an eye on the prince, as he had gotten reckless since his beloved Lady Althea was captured during the searing, and they hadn't found her in the years since. The mission began, and together with Rurik, the small squad battled control of the area in front of the wall back from the Charr. But now they encountered the same problem that had held back the Charr for all those years: how to gain control of the wall. The answer came in form of Siege Master Lormar, whose team got surprised by the sudden Charr invasion, either getting captured or killed. Lormar managed to hide himself until now, and offered to help the squad in repairing the trebuchets, which were scheduled to arrive upon the wall the day the Charr attacked. With the trebuchets, they managed to open the wall and gained the upper hand over the Charr forces stationed there. Atop the wall, Rurik contemplated their further strategy, as a Vanguard scout approached him. The scout brought news of their victory, but also lamented that part of their wounded soldiers had been captured during the Charr's retreat. With a determined look on his face, Rurik exclaimed that he had enough of fighting a defensive war. From now on, the Vanguard would bring the fight to their enemies. He asked the hero to meet him on the wall near Ascalon's old capital, Draskir, so they could save the prisoners in a special mission. He also asked them to meet with Duke Baradin, Althea's father, who was leading a contingent of Vanguard soldiers to establish a base behind the wall at Pyken Square. Arriving at the base, Baradin, who had heard about the hero's deeds from the prince, requested that they investigate the capturing of his daughter. Scouts had said she was last seen around the Diessa lowlands. After a short trek and a few patrolling Charr groups, the hero squad arrived at the point the scouts mentioned. There, perhaps sensing friends in the area, Althea's spirit appeared. Held in this world by sorrow over her death before marrying Rurik and worries over him. The hero assured her that they would keep Rurik safe and keep an eye on him. Upon hearing this, Althea bid the hero to tell her father not to worry and to send the prince her love. Sighing a breath of relief, she set forth into her last journey into the mists.
A lost relic will bring hope where there is none. It will be celebrated as a gift from the gods, but the joy comes chained with sorrow, as a bloodline is severed by words, a son forsaken, a father blind.
At the newly established base at the eastern frontier, the hero was informed that Rurik had already left to scout ahead. Quickly, they gathered their squad and picked up the pursuit. But not without bumping into Mirak again, who, traumatized from the searing, had left his place of study in the abbey and seemed to be shouting about some kind of prophecy, which was set in motion. With a bad feeling and a more important task at hand, the hero managed to break away from him and hurried to the prince's aid. Far behind enemy lines, down the hill where Draskir once stood proud, the party managed to catch up with Rurik. He informed them that he had found the prison camps, and together they freed the prisoners, some of which had been held captive here since the searing. One of them, Errol, explained that there were more prisoners held in the ruins of the Mage Academy of Surmia, not far from Draskir, and offered his help. With no time to waste, they pressed on. Atop the hill, where Ascalon's finest mages were once raised, there were only ruins left. After freeing the mages, Errol spotted Charr reinforcements drawing closer. Rurik frantically searched for a way out, and at last found a locked door with the royal seal. He remembered what his teachers had told him about Surmia, and how its sister academy, Nolani, Rin's magical academy, were connected via magical portal. He rushed to open the door, hoping the portal was locked behind it, but he needed time. The freed mages, thankful for their freedom and proud to be able to serve their prince and country one last time, jumped into action and manned the magic-enhancing obelisks to fend off the beasts. Finally, the door gave way and the portal behind it opened. The prince urged the survivors to hurry. But Errol called him over. He had found something interesting. Rurik ran towards him to take a look and immediately recognized the artifact as the mouthpiece of the legendary warhorn Stormcaller, the weapon of the first human king, Doric. Elated, the prince exclaimed that this could turn the tides of this war, and that they had to head for Rin at once. With this, the squad jumped through the portal and arrived in Nolani. Hoping to find a bit of safety and rest, they found Nolani in a dire state. Besieged by Bonfar's Burntfur's own warband, with Rin as their prize, the resident mages just held on for dear life. With the Charr in front of the gate, the way towards Rin seemed impossible. But Rurik had a plan. He bid the hero and their small party to find their way through the back hills of Nolani and surprise the Charr, while the prince would help with the defense. The hero agreed, and they made their way towards the Charr flanks. One by one, the warbands fell, and finally, the squad arrived back at the gates of the academy. After Nolani was safe, the prince joined back up with the party, and finally, they could leave for Rin. They arrived at the wall, where only a gate separated them of the capital. Rurik ordered the guards to open it, but what they saw behind it was desolate. Burntfur's warband had found a way around the wall, and only ruins of the city remained. Its inhabitants were held as slaves. Enraged by this sight, the prince stormed ahead, Stormcaller in his sight, leaving the hero and their squad trailing him.
A sound across the heavens brings healing rain, to drown the fire and soothe smoldering scars. The mouth lies fallow until the final peace is recovered. The beasts fall under the sword, but it will not be enough.
Reckless, the prince battled through Charr and elementals to reach the warhorn and finally arrived at his destination. Rurik attached the mouthpiece and blew the legendary weapon with all his might. As the sound rang throughout the ruins, rain started to fall, putting out the shaman's fires and weakening their magic. Letting out a war cry, Rurik raised Sohothan and stormed towards the valley. After a fierce battle, the party finally stood in front of the shaman responsible for the searing himself. Bonfar's Burntfur. Even with Stormcaller's help, his magic was strong. He stood true to his name, throwing with balls of flame and conjuring a storm of raging fire. But ultimately, he was overpowered and lying at the prince's feet, struck down by the same power that he sought to conquer. At last, they had a chance to rest. But soon enough, the royal horn rang through the fallen city. King Adalbern, informed by the guards on the wall about the Vanguard's doings, would be arriving imminently. Rurik, the hero squad, and the freed inhabitants of Rin dropped to their knees on sight of the first royal guards. Slowly, King Adalbern walked down the stairs into his ruined capital. He allowed his son to rise, complimenting on his accomplishment, and remarking that the recovery of Stormcaller surely was a sign of victory. The prince, tired, exhausted, and disillusioned by their close battle even against weakened foes, disagreed and suggested a different path. He raised the possibility of retreating to Kryta, recuperating what little they had left, regrowing and striking back with new strength. Appalled by his words, not only allying with the hated Crichtons, but also essentially giving up Doric's legacy, Adalbern had enough of the prince's disobedience and disowned him, banishing him from Ascalon. Rurik in turn cried out to the people of Rin, begging them to follow him if they wished to live, and left to organize the great Ascalonian exodus.